Welcome, everyone, to the Pearl and the Echo podcast. My name is Dori Sim, and with me, I've got the one and only Jim Rajan. We are back with another episode today, but as always, we are going to start with 3 deep breaths. So close your eyes if it's safe to do so, or just go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose. And out through your mouth. And again, when you're ready, in through your nose. And out through your mouth. And one last time, just like that. Take the biggest breath you've taken today all the way into your fingertips and the top of your head and your toes. And let it all go. All right, take it away, Jim.
Okay, Dori, wonderful. The quote that I have picked today comes from Nelson Mandela, and it goes like this: "It always seems impossible until it's done. It always seems impossible until it's done." And this is just so true. We get into this idea that there's a big, huge problem and we don't know how we're going to deal with it, whether it's work related, relationship related. There's a million different possibilities, but we kind of see this big problem in the future and there's a huge gap between us and this problem. So we just say, well, it's impossible. I can't do it. But there's just so many examples, like putting a human on the moon. Well, that had to start somewhere. That had to start with someone trying to fly, the Wright brothers or whoever it was before, actually building something that could fly, and then building something better, then even better, then something that could get to the atmosphere and then further and then out into space and back, and without the person just being lost in space forever, and then eventually getting to the moon and landing on the moon. You know, it's a bit like the idea of how do you kill all of humanity? Well, you do it with a nuclear bomb or various nuclear bombs. But where did that start? That started with a human being throwing a stone at someone or something and then throwing it harder, then realizing, oh, maybe if I make something like a bow or a spear, and then we need more power here. We go from a bow to a crossbow. Hold on, we need explosives. Someone invents explosives. Then we've got a gun. Then we've got a bigger gun. Then we've got artillery. Then we've got a missile. Then we've got big missiles. Then someone invents nuclear fission. Add that to it and we've got a nuclear bomb. There's all of these steps to all of these things, but we just, being silly humans that we are, go, nuclear bomb, done. Well, that just happened. And it didn't. Each thing takes years and years to perfect and purify and make whole over the course of time. And so nothing is impossible because everything that is around us right now came from human imagination. I'm sitting in front of a computer. There is a webcam. There's a microphone. You're on the other side of the ocean from me. And this is all working in real time. The satellites are involved. You know, all this kind of stuff that 50 years ago, someone would say, well, that's impossible.
Yeah.
And it isn't. And it's done. Of course, we can go down the inspirational, encouraging, come on, you can do it. Nothing's impossible. But even that can be construed as toxic positivity. What I'm saying is, break it down into little steps. Because if nothing is impossible, everything is possible. But what's possible right now? That's where I'm taking this one. So what is possible right now, Dori?
Yeah, I love this quote. It's really making me think about the last week. And I know you and I tried to record on Friday and I was like, Jim, I can't do it. I just need to talk. I'm not ready. And it's because where I'm living, there's forest fires in northern Ontario and Canada and in BC and all over the place. There's over 100 active forest fires, and it looked truly like the apocalypse outside, where everything was so orange and it just smells like charcoal and burning, and you're told don't open your doors or windows, and you just feel like a prisoner in your own home, but also you can't go outside. So where can you go? And I'm chuckling, but it was really hard for me. We've had forest fires before. This is nothing new, but it hit me that day and for the rest of that week, and still is this absolute visceral feeling of dread, of just pure, pure dread, pure existential dread. And it's coming from the opposite side of this quote, which is that we've gotten ourselves into this deep, deep mess and it felt impossible to fix, right? To turn it around. It felt like this is it. This is the new reality. This is the new normal. But that is a very negative perspective. And also, it's just simply not true because there are so many climate activists and scientists and people that are turning things around constantly, that are revitalizing coral reefs, that are planting entire forests, that are just turning this thing around. And do we need to do more? Absolutely, we need to do more. But as soon as we believe that something is impossible, it becomes undoable. It becomes this mountain that you can't even see the peak of. It's like our own personal Everest, right? And that's not it, right? Because there is a reality where we turn this thing completely around and we look at the abundance of nature and we treasure it and we operate in that way instead of this kind of consumerist, just take, take, take. I've been reading this book called Braiding Sweetgrass, and the indigenous knowledge to harvesting anything is that you always take what you need, but no more than that. And you never pick the first plant that you see. You keep walking and you go for the second or the third plant. And you never pick more than 50% of what's there. So it's always less than 50% of the crop. And it seems so simple, but these are ancient teachings, right, that have been passed on verbally through generations. And so simple, but powerful, because that's not how we operate, right? That's not how the agricultural industrial complex operates. It's like mass production, mass yield, get as much out as you can so you can make as much money as you can. And then so much food goes to waste. And I could talk about this all day, but to me, I had to really turn this around for myself in terms of what is possible in this situation and what can I do as an individual. And I have some ideas since talking to you last week, which is nice. And this idea of it seems impossible until it's done. Sometimes we hyperfixate on it being done. And to me, taking care of the planet and taking care of ourselves and trying to work towards our highest good, our highest version of ourselves, that's a for life thing. We're not going to be done. And so if there's no end point, then of course it's possible. We've got our whole lives to do it, right? So yeah, I think it's a really good reminder. And there's so many examples for right now. Like you said, if we can put somebody on the moon, then I think we can turn this thing around.
Yeah, I think the done thing is really important, isn't it? Because everything's done and we won and everything's perfect. And no, done comes and then done goes, just like success comes and then success is gone. And then we're back to being on the path again over and over again. But we fixate on the, right, it's done. We can all have a rest. But no, you'll do it and it will be done. And then the next thing will come along, like with the idea of putting someone on the moon. If you had said to the Wright brothers, okay, we've got to put someone on the moon, get on with it, they would be like, well, that's just impossible. Forget it. It's a waste of time. But taking climate change as the subject here, that's brilliant because it's a continuous thing. Planet Earth did really well without human beings for a very long time, and it has the capacity to do really well with human beings. But human beings need to live in a very different way, and mass production and mass agriculture and all these things are very destructive, but also they make human beings really complacent. And there's nothing worse than a complacent human being. And yeah, you make too much food, a lot of it gets thrown away. I bought something on Amazon the other day and it wasn't right, so I sent it back. And then I thought, hold on a minute, what's going to happen to this thing? Is the company actually going to repackage it and sell it to someone else, or does it just get thrown away?
Well, I could tell you what happens to some of it, but you're not going to like it. There is an island, I've been told, where a lot of these packages just get sent. And
My God.
there's like a mountain. I hope that's not where your return is. But yeah, you're right. Because the decision is made based on is the most profitable way to deal with this return. And the most profitable way to deal with it might be to chuck it somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really always go with the saying of all paths lead to the top of the mountain, which is an old Hindu proverb. And that means there are lots of different ways of doing the same thing. There are lots of ways of getting to the top of the mountain. And it might not be me that gets to the top of the mountain, but if I make the first stages, then the next person will follow me. And the first person to ever reach the top of Everest wasn't the first ever person to try. Lots of other people tried. Some people didn't make it. Some people came home again, but a base camp, then another camp, then another camp got made, and eventually it happened. And long-term thinking is a really good way of being a human. Short-term thinking is what is destroying everything, and therefore destroying our own minds and our own ways of being a human being, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like it's really easy to lose sight of the big picture and the long-term goals because there are so many not only distractions but responsibilities and day-to-day things that we have to manage and work on. And our brains are designed to just focus on the last few days and the next few days, but we are capable of long-term planning. Like, I think it's not impossible, and our brain can think both fast and slow. And so what is that thing, that long-term thing that feels impossible until you actually do the thing? There's this trend of just be delusional on purpose about it, right? Like, what is the most audacious, delusional kind of goal that you have? And then ask yourself, well, is it actually that wild of a goal? And is it actually that delusional? Or do you just think that, and that's why you're putting it off, because you think it's impossible? And so it's this idea of, like we say here all the time, you're just going to do it anyway, even if it's the most wild, preposterous thing for you to be doing right now. Well, why not just do it anyway and see what happens?
I've got a really nice example of this. I'm talking a lot with my daughter at the moment, who is 17, about what she's going to do after school. And I think she would make a brilliant stand-up comedian. She's just hilarious anyway, and she has no problems about standing up in front of people and just talking. You know, what she needs is kind of storycraft or stagecraft. And I was saying this to her, and we were just kind of discussing it, and she was all like, oh no, but I couldn't do that. And she sees these kind of stand-up comedians on TV in a stadium getting 30,000 people to laugh, and she sees this end goal and freaks out. And I was saying, let's find some material off the internet, make a thing out of it. Let's go to a comedy club. You're going to be terrible, but don't worry. The first one will be terrible. Probably the second one will be terrible. Maybe the first 5 will be terrible, but eventually you'll get it and you'll find your way and you'll find the thing that people like. And then it either works or it doesn't work. And you could see her brain going, you could see the end goal falling away and it just being a path. And well, it doesn't matter if I fail or not. Let's see what happens. Let's do the next thing and listen to that and see what happens. And I think that's the way. I think that's the way.
Yeah, I love that. I think I've mentioned that I, at one point, did a comedy class as well. And it's hard, but you know, your first time getting up, like our whole class, we each did your tight 5, and it was really hard just to get up there and do it, but also really fun. And, you know, it was a very small audience. There were like maybe 20 people in the audience, but it was still cool. We were at a comedy club and you get the feel for it, and then you can kind of decide if you want to keep going. I think she would be brilliant as well. I've met your daughter, and it's all about finding your voice and telling your story. And it takes some time. Bombing as a comedian is a rite of passage. Getting heckled and just absolutely like not being funny. It happens to everybody. It has to happen to you at least once, if not more, for you to be able to work out your material and that kind of thing. And comedians, even the most seasoned, experienced comedians, the way that they work, a lot of them work through their material. They will perform at local clubs and in small crowds, and they'll do that for like a year before they get their hour of material that then they will go out and film their special, and then they'll go out and tour that 1 hour of comedy. And it's a journey. It takes time, and then they do it again and again, and they get better. But yeah, can I just say I really love that you're telling your daughter that she should be a comedian, because it's like the last thing I think most parents would tell their child to be. Like, I don't think I've ever heard anyone in my life tell their child, or any friends of mine having their parents be like, oh, you should be a comedian. You're hilarious.
Well, I think she is hilarious and kind of naturally funny, but also I think it's really hard to have a good life in the modern world. And there is so much rat race and jumping on the machine of life and just being chewed up by it. And, why not have a go at something? Instead of having to work from 9 to 5, you just go and do a couple of comedy shows a week that take a couple of hours and done,
Yes.
And someone listening to this will be like, well, yeah, but that's really difficult. But you've got to start somewhere. Same with everything. Same with me, how I started somewhere. You started somewhere. All of these people who made success in their life started somewhere.
Yeah.
And just failed lots of times over and over again and eventually found the thing. I've mentioned this to you before. Maybe I've mentioned it here. I can't remember. The theory of the 4 failures for every success, where if you just assume you've got to fail 4 times before you get your success, well, then after a while, you don't really care about the failure. You just go, right, oh, well, that didn't work. I've got another one of them and then I get my success. Brilliant. And it doesn't always work exactly like that. But then
the counts maybe not always.
Yeah. And then you get your success, but success is the most transient thing ever. So then you've got to assume, right, so now I've got to have maybe 4 more failures before I get my next success.
I like that. That explains some of my career journey.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah, absolutely. Mine too.
But that's a really good reminder, because it's something that I think we just want, that some of us anyway want that instant gratification, right? Because that's a lot of how the world is designed around us. And so it's easy to lose sight of the journey. And I think there's something beautiful in failing too, right? Like for me, when I've made certain pieces of art or things like that, where I'm like, okay, like, this is working or this isn't working, like you learn, and it's actually kind of fun to mess something up. Like probably in this room, I have some pieces of art that started as something, and then I was like, oh, I don't really like how this is turning out. And then I try to, quote unquote, fix it or take it in another direction. And maybe I'm still like, I don't love this, but I guarantee you there's someone out there that would probably look at that piece of art and say, oh, that's brilliant. This is great. And how much, can I please have this, right? There's so much judgment that goes into everything, like self-judgment. If we take the self-judgment out of it, I think we would go in different places. And if it was more about curiosity and let me try this other thing over here because this isn't really working for me, then it just becomes a different experience. Whereas the self-judgment is just painful. It's just a painful way to go about it. Tell it to us one more time, Jim.
Okay, so Nelson Mandela said, it always seems impossible until it's done. I think the last thing I'll add is I like the way that it just at the end is until it's done. And like almost like the done bit is going to happen anyway. Your work is just to put one more foot on the path, isn't it?
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. Subscribe, follow, share with someone who needs to hear it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Pearl and the Echo podcast with me, Dori Sim, and my co-host, Jim Rajan. Thank you to Rebel Mixtape Productions for editing this episode. If you like what you heard, like, subscribe, and share with those in your life that matter most.